Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Captain Morgan. On today's episode, we have another very special guest. She is a former CrossFit coach turned online business coach. Sounds like someone I know. Please welcome on the Captain's Lifestyle, Julia Avery.
Wow, what an introduction. I feel like I should oh yeah, I'm here. Okay.
Yeah, we could edit in like a applause from the crowd.
Perfect. That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah. So you want to, well, first off, how we know each other is I actually got a job offer from the gym that you used to work at, right? CrossFit
Yeah,
7 Mile.
for my job.
Yeah.
my replacement.
For your job, to be your replacement. And I can't believe I turned that down. Such a beautiful place, an amazing gym, an amazing community. But yeah, that's how we know each other. So you want to give a little background about yourself, and obviously we're going to cover your time in the Caymans.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that'll definitely be part of the story. So let's see, where should I start? I am originally from Houston, Texas, and I'm currently living in Houston now, which I don't know when this is going to air or what will be going on in the world, but I'm quarantined in Houston. And so I guess long story short, I grew up in Houston, went to Duke for college, majored in economics, graduated in 2009, which was during the last recession we were in, and saw a lot of my friends like losing job offers. I didn't have a job offer, so I didn't have anything to lose. But I graduated from Duke and went home to Houston without a job, but knowing that I wanted to move to New York City because a lot of my friends were there. I had visited. I was like, this is awesome. This is where I want to be. So I only looked for jobs in New York, kind of like anything that I could find on LinkedIn or whatever we used to look for jobs back then. God, that was like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. That's crazy. So anyway, I ended up getting a job in investor relations we did IR for healthcare companies, which is basically like working between the company and the investor community and doing all of the communications for them. So that was my first job out of college. Learned a ton there, but was kind of like, this isn't really what I want to do the rest of my life. You know, New York is fun. I have all my friends here. I had very much like a work hard, play hard life of work the 9 to 6 and then go binge drink on the weekends. And working out was always a big part of my life. Like it was something that was really important to me. But I never thought like, oh, I could make this into a career, because it just wasn't a career path that had ever been presented to me. So I after like being not pleased with my life for a while, I decided, okay, I need to do something. I'm going to start looking for part-time jobs in the fitness industry and see if like at least that'll fill my cup. If I could, I don't know, be a trainer part-time or like teach some classes I literally had no experience doing any of this. So I got a job somehow as an assistant instructor at a little boutique studio. And basically I was a fitness instructor. Assistant just meant that I was teaching with someone else. So I taught like kettlebells and burpees and all the types of stuff that we do in CrossFit, just no barbells. And it was fun. I was like, wow, this is really cool. I like this. I started to see myself. I was super shy. And I started to see like I was coming out of my shell because I was finally doing something that I liked and was confident about. And all of these like skills that I never knew I had, like leading a group of people and standing up, like that are my favorite things to do now. I love standing at the whiteboard and like coaching a class. I was like, wow, this is cool. I like this. Like I was discovering a new passion. And so I ended up quitting my full-time job, my 9 to 6, 9 to 5, whatever. No one actually works a 9 to 5 anymore, I don't think. So I left, and I mean, it wasn't, I make it sound, easier than it was, but I came up with a plan. I said, by this date, I'm going to have left my job and I will ask them for more classes. I'll see if they can increase my rate. I'll pick up, private personal training clients. I'll do whatever I can to make this work because I don't want to sit at my desk any longer. Like I can't. And I don't know if you've ever been in this situation, but like once you see the light, sorry, there's a kettle going off next to me.
That's okay.
Excuse me. Recording a podcast. Um, once you, very professional. Once you like see the light, it's hard to go back. And so every day I would be at my desk and I was like, I want to be somewhere else. And I couldn't sit there and do it anymore. So I left. Um, and it all worked out. There were some tough months where I was like, oh, okay, how am I going to eat this month or pay my rent? And then eventually I was actually making more money in fitness than I had ever been making at my regular job, which just goes to show like, take what you love and follow it, and opportunities will come, things will start to work out. So that's what I did for 3 years in New York. And after I was hitting the 3-year mark, I started to feel a little bit resentful of like, I didn't want to really teach classes anymore. I was starting to like butt heads with the owners of the studio I worked at. And I still loved fitness, but I was burnt out. And I'd lived in the city for 7 years. I'd worked full-time in fitness for 3, teaching 25 to 30 classes a week between boutique fitness and CrossFit. And I was tired. So I heard about through the grapevine about a job in the Cayman Islands and coaching at a CrossFit gym, doing some personal training. It sounded awesome. As you know, like the people down there are incredible. So they flew me down there for a week, just like you did, Taylor. And I loved it. I mean, the people were incredible. They were so welcoming. The gym was awesome. They cared about all of the things that I care about, like good movement, community, just helping people be healthy and happy. So I accepted the job down there. Just literally like within a month of coming back from the week there, I went back and I was like, guys, I'm moving to the Cayman Islands. Everyone was like, what?
Super random.
It seemed really, they're like, we thought you were just on vacation. I was like, no, yeah, I'm moving there. And it's very much, a lot of people think like, oh, were you living in like a hut? No, it's very much, it's definitely a first world country. There are cars, there's technology. It does not feel like, it's not like the Dominican Republic or Jamaica or a lot of places that are a little less advanced. So I moved down there. I was there for 3 years. Loved it. It was absolutely incredible. Taylor came down because I had decided I wanted to leave, and he was like, "It seems like you really love it, and everyone loves you. Why are you leaving?"
Yep.
And it was hard. It was one of the hardest decisions I've had to make probably ever. And it's one of those things, you're leaving something good for something that can be even better. Unlike when I left my corporate job, which was like leaving something I hated, that decision was easy. This is like, okay, I'm leaving something awesome, but I have this idea in my head and I want to do something else. And so I need to pursue that, or I'm always going to wonder, like, what if I had done that? So that's where kind of got me to where I am today. I decided to come back to Houston and start my own online business. I hired a business coach, and my business was actually mentoring people who wanted to leave their desk jobs and move into the fitness industry, which, believe it or not, there is a market for that. Because you think like, oh, why doesn't everyone just do that? Do it. If you want a new job, just go get it. But there's a lot more that goes into it, and I could completely relate to that story. So I started helping people do that. And then that kind of evolved into just helping people create online businesses, because that's kind of where the future of the fitness industry, as we're all seeing right now, is anyway. So as I created this online business, I was like, you know what? I want to take everything I'm learning and help other fitness professionals who are finding themselves trading time for money, like getting resentful, not wanting to be in the gym because they're just tired. Like there's a better way to do it. And I think going online and expanding your reach that way is how. So that's where I am now.
Awesome.
That was a really long story. Sorry.
That's okay. You've had a really, well, I was going to say long life. It hasn't been long, but a really eventful.
You're calling me old?
Yes. No, not at all. We've got the best years of our life ahead of us for sure.
Yes.
So I think a good place to go is, let's talk about, because I think a lot of people out there, especially people who have the 9 to 5s or the 9 to 6s, they've been scripted in a way to believe that that is the path to happiness, right? You go to college, you get the 9 to 5, you work until you're 60, you retire, and then you can be happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, that's just not the case. And they don't they might not know that there's other options out there, right? Like you can literally do anything you want. Um, and I'm sure you felt that when you wanted to transition into fitness and then to what you do now to your business coaching. So you want to talk about kind of how you made that decision to transition from what is safe and guaranteed to what you're passionate about and that what you knew would make you happy?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of it comes down to our conditioning. Like, what did we see our parents do? And most of us, like my parents are baby boomers, they work 9 to 6 or whatever, and that's their work really hard, and they save a lot of money, and they're saving for retirement. I have this conversation with my parents every day, like, when are you going to retire? When I have more money. And it's like back and forth. And I don't know, I always resisted that idea of like, why do I have to wait for to do the things that I want to do? Like, I don't. And maybe that's me being impatient, I don't know, but I just didn't. I knew that like, I shouldn't have to do that, and I knew that I didn't have to. There were people out there who really liked their jobs, and I wasn't one of them, and I wanted to figure out how to be one of those people. So like, coming from Duke, it was hard because it's not a traditional career path to go into fitness, like I said. And so I had to work through a lot of like, what do I really want to do? And how is my ego stopping me? Like, if I can't say, oh, I'm the successful person that made all of this money working in finance, and I'm just a fitness instructor, like, what are people going to judge me? Are they not going to talk to me? Like, and my relationship shifted a lot because of that. Just because, I found people who understood what I wanted to do, as opposed to kind of the friends that, I don't know, that you just start to not really value the same things anymore.
Yeah. So you brought up um, success, right? Coming from Duke, right? A very prestigious school. I'm imagining the typical like view of success is a lot different than what you have now. So do you want to talk a little bit about what your definition of success was or was and is now currently and how that's shifted?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in college, success was like, I'm going to graduate with really good grades. I'm going to get a job working at, I don't know, some company that pays me a really nice salary with benefits, and I'm going to get married, and I'm going to have this big house with kids. And it was like very traditional. And I just didn't see anything else. Like, I didn't have any other examples shown to me that there were other ways to be successful, and that actually success, like, you get to decide what that means. It's not, no one else can tell you what success is. And what I've realized is that we might, even if your goal is the same, like, eventually, yes, I would love to have someone to like spend the rest of my life with and have kids and a house and like all this stuff. The path to get there doesn't have to look the same as everyone else's. And underneath all of that, what success looks like from the outside is, what's actually going to fill your cup. So to me, every day waking up, am I happy? Do I like what I'm doing today? If money like weren't an issue at all, would I still want to live this life and do these things that I'm doing? And if the answer is yes, then to me, that's success.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And what really like deeply hurts me is that so many people are only working for the money. Like they hate their job, they come home and they just like forget everything. Like they want nothing to do with their job. They just immerse themselves in quadrants 3 and 4, which if you know Stephen Covey in the time management matrix, it's the stuff that is not important. It's just basically entertainment, distracting. And I don't want that for anybody because that's just no way to live. And so I really want to help people shift their definition of success. Um, like you said, a huge part of it revolves around happiness and fulfillment. Are you happy with what you're doing? If you're not, don't do it. Do something else. And it's not going to be easy, like you said. It's like it definitely takes some time commitment. It's going to be hard for a while, but as we now know, it pays off. So
Yeah.
you want to talk a little bit about how your mindset around money has changed? Because a lot of people have the view of money. uh, If some people say that if you want to make money, you're selfish. You're doing it for selfish purposes. You're evil, which can definitely be the case. There are definitely people out there who do that, um, but it just kind of depends on your view of money. So you want to talk a little bit about your mindset around money and how that's changed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, if you if you're a shitty person without money and then make money, you're probably going to be a shitty person with money.
Yep.
But if you're a good person that, means well and has good values and wants to help, then money is only going to let you do that to an even greater capacity than you already do. Like, think of how many times you've been like, "Oh, I wish I could like give money to that cause," or "I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that." If you had more money, you could. I mean, you probably still can now, but you could in an even greater capacity. And I think people forget that happiness and fulfillment and success um, and compassion and all of these things are not like exclusive. Like, they're not the opposite of being rich. Like, having money and being wealthy, it's okay to want that and to also be a good person. So when I say, like, going back to our last conversation, when my definition of success has changed, that doesn't mean that I don't want to make money. I don't want my business to be successful. But the reason that I want that is because I know that the more successful I am in my business, then the more lives that I'm able to impact. And so money is just like a reflection of how many lives I've affected. If that
No,
makes sense.
I
Okay.
couldn't agree more, for sure. Because I've had the same kind of transformation. Um, I'd say growing up, I didn't necessarily have a negative view of money, but I kind of just thought, yeah, like rich people just use it to be selfish and for their own personal benefit. But now, doing what I do now, it's written in my mission statement. The more money that I make, the more of an impact I'll be able to have because I'm doing impactful work, right? Improving people's lives. So same with you. The more we get, the more we're able to give out to other people, and that's a great feeling. So now let's transition to people who want to improve themselves but give the excuse of I don't have the money or I don't have the time. Let's focus on money specifically.
Yeah. And when you say people who, I'm like, I mean, it's all of us, right? Like, we've all caught ourselves saying that. And
Definitely.
so much of what I teach in my course and preach on Instagram and, all of these things is lessons that I've learned myself or that I'm currently still learning. And that's why it's, come up for me. So it's funny because I'm always like, yeah, when people do this, I'm like, I mean, when I do this, or people will agree with you. They're like, yeah, I hate when people do that. I'm like, you're the person I'm talking to.
Yep.
But yeah, I think money can often be a we use it as a reason to not do things that we're scared to do. And we don't often look past the money part of it. So sometimes, yes, you physically do not have the money to pay for something. That's the fact. But when we refuse to dig into that a little deeper of where can I find the money? Am I really being resourceful? Do I really know, like, there's like four different types, I think, of assets that people talk about. So, like, the actual money in your bank account, the money that you could liquidate pretty easily in some kind of savings, the money that you would get a penalty to take out, but you could get your hands on it if you wanted to, and then the money that you could actually go out and create, like at any, like go get a client or sell your clothes or whatever. And people don't necessarily, they just say, oh, that's expensive, I can't afford it. Oh, I wish I could get the help, but I can't afford it right now. And they don't actually look into, okay, is that really true? What's like the real reason behind that that's stopping you? Are you afraid that if you do find the money to pay for this and it doesn't work out, that you're going to be upset or you're going to feel like a failure, or it does work out and you're going to have like all of this work to do now that you're successful? So I think money is as an objection to not doing something is the same as saying, as any objection, I don't have the time or I'm scared or whatever. And just because it's money doesn't mean that we don't have to talk about it, right? It's not like it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a crap, like something you're not supposed to say, to, taboo.
Taboo. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, people hear people say, "Oh, I can't afford it," and they're like, "Oh," and they're trying to be sensitive. "Oh, okay, like you're going like, okay, your financial situation must be like really bad." Instead of looking at it and as a coach being like, "Okay, cool. Well, let me coach you through figuring out how you can make this work and why maybe you are blocking yourself a little bit." So money's not off the table.
Yeah, I think especially now it's such an important time to be talking about this because with so much uncertainty and people getting laid off, um, your views around money and how to make money and be smart with it have to change, right? Because you might not have your secure 9 to 5 job anymore, and now you have to become resourceful. I actually just made a post about this today. Is one of the ways to guarantee financial security is not in your job or what you do. It's intrinsic. It's focusing on yourself, improving your capacity to learn, to think, to create, to produce, right? If you can do that, you're going to be fine no matter what happens because you're thriving. You're not just trying to survive the 9 to 5. Um, and another reason I think people struggle to invest in themselves is they might not see the priorities, or they might not have their priorities set. So if your perspective is focused on money and you're going to have to invest money in order to make more money back or improve yourself, you're not going to want to part with that money because your sole purpose, maybe your definition of success, is how much money you have, right? So
Mm.
you want to talk about people people their ideas or their views around their priorities. um, I don't know why I can't say this.
When you say that, I think of like, um, if someone says, I don't, it's like if a client comes to you, if you work in fitness and someone comes to you and they're like, well, I don't have the time to work out. And you're like, okay, well, everybody has 24 hours in a day and you choose how you get to use that time. So, like, why don't you pull out your phone and let's look at your screen time and see where you're actually spending all your time? And
Yep.
you could do the same with money, like, not saying that everyone has the same amount of money, but everyone has the choice on how they get to use their money. And often that's a reflection of it's either a reflection of what they find is important and value, or maybe they're just not paying attention to how they use their money. Like they're going to Target and spending $100 at a time and they're like, oh, where'd all my money go? But you could easily pull out their bank statement and be like, well, this is where your money's going. So if you could just take it away from here, here, and here and invest it in this thing that's going to make you more money. But unfortunately, like we can't sit there and do that for everyone. But if everyone would do that for themselves, I think they would be shocked at what their bank statement says that they actually value as
Yes.
opposed to what they're saying they actually value.
Yes. Sometimes I just want to take people and like grab them by the neck and shake them and be like, you say you want this, but you're actually spending your time, money, effort over here. And that's not how it works, right? Because actions reveal commitment. So you can't say one thing
Yes.
and go act on another. Um, and so let's dive into how improving yourself, how investing in yourself can actually basically 10x everything, your income, your productivity, all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's every time I've decided, and this is probably comes from some past conditioning or something that I learned growing up. But if I'm like, I really want something or I really want to learn how to do something, then I'm like, I need to figure out how to get the help to help me do that. And if that means I have to spend money, then I will somehow find that money. So when I decided, okay, I want to start an online business, and a lot of it's timing, right? Like I could have seen a business coach a year before talking about their program to help people build online businesses. And it wouldn't have even like registered in my mind because it wasn't something I was looking for. But once I decided that's what I was going to do, a coach came across my Instagram feed and I had been following her for a little while, and I was like, all right, I have to talk to her. So we got on the phone and she's like, at the time it was a 3K investment, which now her program is more than that, but lucky me, I got in when it was 3K. But it was huge to me. I was like, oh, okay. Like she told me the price. I'm like, okay, let me get back to you. And she, she's like, let's schedule a follow-up and whatever. So I got off the phone, and immediately in my head, as soon as she said the price, I started going through like, crap, where am I going to get this money from? I know that this is what I want to do. Like I'm not going to do it. So I have to find $3,000 somehow. So I went into my savings. I'm not giving financial advice here. Like my retirement savings that you get a penalty for taking out, and I withdrew the money because I knew, I knew that if I spent that money on this coach, that it would pay off somehow. And I knew that if I didn't do this right then I was going to lose that drive, and I was going to find some other excuse and like go another way. So, and it's true, once I'd made that investment, I mean, I wouldn't have a business today if I hadn't have taken that step. So I've made my investment back by far. Like the fact that was even like scary to me is like funny now, but I can also sympathize, or I have compassion for people who are scared to invest that amount, because I do understand that it's hard. But as soon as you decide to do that, like you're giving a sign to the universe, to your future clients, to everyone that you are serious about this thing, and it's going to come back to you.
Yeah. I actually had pretty much like literally the exact same thing happen, because I mean, we're both fitness coaches. We both decided to become online coaches. So similar paths there. My first coaching program that I started was 5,000. And like you, I didn't necessarily have the money, but I was like, okay, I know how beneficial this is going to be for me. I'm going to do it. How can I find the money? Because at the time I was in Saudi Arabia, and basically all of my money that I was making there, I was putting into an investment account, right? Because they were paying so well that I could afford to just basically invest all of it for the future. And so they said $5,000. I was like, man, but I knew how like quickly I could make the money back if I actually followed the program. I had actually heard of this specific program on, I think it was the Barbell Shrug podcast, like 2 years prior. And I was like, wow, that's something that I would want to do. But at the time I reached out and they said $5,000, and I literally did not have the money. And so I was like, okay, I can't do it now. And then while in Saudi Arabia, I wasn't enjoying it there. I wanted to make a bigger impact, and I knew that I could if I started my own thing. And I remembered, I was like, oh, there's this program. I know it's $5,000. I'm going to have to move some stuff around, make some changes, and ultimately make it happen, because I knew my priorities. I knew that working there was not the impact that I wanted to have. It's not the legacy that I wanted to leave. So it definitely is hard to invest a large sum of money in yourself. But it takes back to the priorities. Like you have to understand who you want to be. And if you truly believe that a program can provide value to you and ultimately get you to that goal faster, can you do it on your own? Sure, you could, but it's going to take a lot more time and effort than a pre-packaged, neat program will do. And so I finished that one, and then I started another business mentoring program that was $5,000 as well. And because the first one paid off, I knew that this one would pay off. And since then, I've made my investment back. Yeah, right. I've made my investment back. No problem. I'm so happy that I quit my job in Saudi Arabia. I absolutely love what I do now. My life has literally never been better. I get to help people for a living. Like, how cool is that?
And you're ahead of the game. Like, look at everyone going online now. I'm so thankful that we've gone through this experience, because now we're able to help people who are suddenly like, well, crap, I need to replace my income from home. How do I do that?
Yeah.
Well, there are people out there who have already done it. So find one of them to help you.
Yeah. Now everybody's going online. So it's becoming even more important to invest in yourself, find new ways to adapt because the world is changing, whether you like it or not. So I think a question that is good to ask you, your clients, or anybody who's listening, if you're thinking about investing into a program, into yourself, whatever it may be. I got this from my chiropractor, Dr. Daniel Kimbley. He made a whole podcast on this. And that question is, what's the cost of not? So
Mm,
the course, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is the cost of the program. But then what's the cost of not doing the program? What's the cost of staying the same and living the life you're currently living? Are you going to achieve the things you want to accomplish? I don't know. That's the question you have to ask yourself. So let's go for you. What would have been the cost of you not
ooh, I like
investing
this.
in your business mentorship program?
Yeah. Opportunity cost. Now you're speaking my economics language.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. Well, financially, God, I can't even give you a number right now, but it would have been way more than $3,000. So that's funny. Um, it would have been me continuing to be in a gym and not want to be there. Not that I didn't love it, but not having the freedom to choose how to spend my time. Versus now I set my schedule every day. I can travel, as I mean, obviously not in this moment I can't travel, but usually I can travel. I don't have to ask people to cover my classes and feel really stressed out about that. um, Another huge cost of not having done it would be the clients that I've worked with never would have gotten to work with me. And not saying, oh, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to work with me, but they wouldn't have got the help they needed. And because they hadn't done that, which all of my clients are either health and fitness professionals or there's some kind of coach that's helping people do something better themselves. So if I hadn't helped my clients build their businesses, they wouldn't have been able to help their clients become better versions of themselves. And so like this ripple effect that's happened simply because I invested that $3,000 never would have occurred. It's like the butterfly effect or whatever. It never
Right?
would have happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love this because once you look at it that way, once you ask yourself, what's the cost of not? Now that $3,000 investment is like nothing. Like, of course, you're going to pay $3,000 to improve yourself, your clients, and their clients. Like,
Right.
that's
Oh
already
my
such a
God.
huge impact that you've made with a measly $3,000 investment. Like, I just think,
Measly.
yeah, at the time, of course it's not. But now looking
Right.
back, like, of course you're going to make that choice. Um, so obviously the job in the Cayman Islands was not a bad gig. Like
No.
to anybody on the outside looking in, like it's the perfect opportunity. You get to work in fitness, an amazing job on the beach, amazing people, great community. Um, but as Jim Collins says, good is the enemy of the great. So
Mm.
not that the Cayman Islands wasn't a great opportunity, but it wasn't everything that you wanted, right? Because now you said you can create your schedule, you get to decide basically everything in your life. There's no asking people to pick up shifts, like it's all on you. So for people out there, don't just settle for what's good, right? If you want something more, go get it, right? Good is the enemy of the great. You can achieve greatness. So don't just settle for what's working at the time.
Well, sorry, can I add to that?
Yeah, no, go for it.
To add to that, I think it's recognizing that wherever you go, there you are. So I was leaving New York thinking like, oh, I'm so miserable. If I just move to a new location, everything will be great. And I realized that I was actually just putting myself in a very similar situation and I hadn't actually addressed the reasons that I was unhappy. And so if you're, someone who's sitting there thinking, oh, if only this one thing changes in my life, or if only I had this, or if only I lived here, or had this relationship or had this money or whatever it is, if you think that that's going to suddenly make you happy, then it's kind of a rude awakening, and you're going to keep getting the same lesson over and over and over until you finally learn it, which is what it took for me. Is okay, I'm in a beautiful place with amazing people at a gym. Why am I still not happy? And then, the universe was like, yeah, you need to actually change something. Like, do something scary, spend a bunch of money, hire a coach, start your own business. So yeah, it's even more opportunity cost, right? Being unhappy in a situation that looks happy to everyone else from the outside.
Yeah, so that's the problem when people base their happiness off of a specific outcome or a destination. Like when people say, "Oh, once I have this much money, I'll be happy," or "Once I get this job, I'll be happy. If I get to marry this girl, I'll be happy." And if you put the emphasis on the outcome, unfortunately, you might be happy for a second, but it's not going to last, right? Like Katrin David's daughter, CrossFit example, when she won, um, now I'm blanking on this specific example, but basically she won an event, or maybe it was the games, and Ben Bergeron, her coach,
One
asked
event,
her.
the game, same thing.
I think it was the games. He came up to her. It was the games. I can't remember which year, but he came up to her. He asked her. He's like, "How do you feel?" And she's like, "Not how I thought I would." Right?
Mm.
Because she was putting all of her, um, she was putting so much emphasis on actually winning the games, and then when she won it, she's like, "Okay, well, what's next?" And so instead of focusing on like the outcome, what do you think would be the first step to kind of reframing what happiness is? Like for you, what had to take place for you to finally realize, like, okay, moving to the beach, having this amazing job isn't what I like want for my future?
I'm trying to think if there wasn't like a specific instance, but it was more looking at the things that I actually valued, like people and relationships. And, it wasn't just about living on a beautiful beach. It was about what I actually was doing. It was about the journey. It's not about the outcome. It's about the journey. And like like I alluded to earlier, waking up every day and being able to say, like, today is a great day. I love everything that I get to do today. And if you can't do that, and every day is miserable in order to get to some future that you think is going to be awesome, you're probably going to get there and you're still not going to be as exciting as you thought it was. So I honestly can't think of a specific instance that woke me up to it, but I definitely think that seeing that, what is it called? The recency, when you see you're like looking to buy a red car, and then all of a sudden you like start seeing red cars everywhere. There's a name for
Mhm.
that.
I don't know the
Um,
specific name, but I know exactly what you're referring to.
yeah,
I've referenced
that,
it on the show before.
yeah, I feel like I wrote about it the other day. But that started happening where once I got like an idea in my mind, it just kept popping up to where it started with like reading a self-help book or something. And then all of a sudden it was like, I think it was You Are a Badass, Jen Sincero. Great intro self-help book if anyone out there is looking to start down that avenue. But then like a lot of the concepts she's talked about started popping up, and then like the business coach I saw on Instagram, and then I kept seeing people doing things online, and it was like all of these signs that started telling me something, and finally I decided to listen to them. Was probably like the main thing that got me to finally take action and being like, there's a reason this is all happening. Maybe I should actually do something about it.
Yeah. What you're referring to, the I don't know what it's called, but like the frequency thing, like you see more of what you're looking for, basically. So I did this with one of my clients the other day. Um, we were on a call and I asked him how his day went, and he's like, "Ah, man, pretty shitty." And I was like, "Why is that?" And he was giving me all these reasons, and I knew that that wasn't it, because we do like this weekly tracker where he like tracks down everything he did hour by hour. to see how he spends his time. And I was like, well, you got started on the Captain's Lifestyle program. You did this, this, and this. You were way more productive than you have been. So why was today such a bad day? And then we went through this exercise. I was like, okay, look around the room and pick out all the things that are black. And I counted down like 10 seconds. He came up with like 23. And I was like, okay, now how many items did you see that were red or yellow or orange or blue or any other color? And he didn't notice any of them. And so I said, like, the same thing could be applied for positive thoughts or negative thoughts. If you focus on the negatives, you're going to find all the negative things that happen throughout your day. If you only see the positives or the positives that come from the negative situations, that's where you're going to focus on and see more of.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if you live in a positive environment, that's going to create much better outcomes in your life. So like you're mentioning, it's all in your head, right? You see more of what you look for.
Yeah, no, it ties back in so nicely to the conversation about investment. And like, if you look at all of the reasons not to do something, then you're only going to be able to, like, you're going to tell yourself it's not worth doing, versus if you look at all the reasons that you should do it, then, you're going to be much more likely to take that next step or take that risk.
Yeah. There's always a million reasons not to do something. Like you can always talk yourself out of whatever it is, like no matter what. But again, going back to the priorities, what is that one reason that you need to do it, right? What's the cost of not?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of switching gears a little bit, I noticed you posted on your Instagram story today, you had a little shift in views around fitness, and there might have been a little ego involved.
Just a little.
Yeah, I had the same thing. So let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it happens a lot with people so just to give a little context, like, I was very into CrossFit and working out. And from the time I started doing CrossFit, I jumped right into like competitive programming. Like, the more the better, I need to get as good as possible. And it's just like, it's comes from that, I don't know, type A 3 Enneagram, like competitive achiever personality. And I would train so hard, and performance was a big focus of mine. Like, I would say that even beyond work, like, if I didn't get a chance to work out, not just work out, but work out for like 3 hours, doing all of the different pieces, weightlifting and conditioning and extra stuff and blah, 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 then I would be like unhappy going to work that day because I had missed my workout. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It was my priority at the time. I wanted to be a really good CrossFit athlete. And then as I actually moving to Cayman is where it started to shift a little bit. And part of it was no longer being in New York, surrounded by this like hyper competitive environment, and being in a place where there were still really good athletes there, but people just had different values. And I started to realize that actually my values were not like, how good of an athlete am I? And that was actually, I was tying a lot of my worth to that, to the point where I would get upset. Like, I would cry after workouts. If I missed a lift, it would like ruin the rest of my day. And my worth was very, very tied to my performance in the gym. And as I started to realize, oh, like, people don't actually give a shit what I do in the gym, and I don't really give a shit what I do in the gym. Like, people really value me here because I'm a really good coach, and people value me because they enjoy spending time with me. And like, the gym and my workouts should actually complement all of that. They should put me in a good mood so that I can show up better for the people that I'm coaching or for my friends that I'm hanging out with. So it started to kind of shift there. And then even more so, like, in this quarantine, working out at home, where literally I train my mom and I work out every morning. But I don't have anyone that's like, no one cares about what weights I'm lifting. No one cares about my times. I'm not posting things anywhere, but I'm still motivated to go out there and work out because it makes me feel good and I enjoy it. It's made me realize, wow, I still had a little bit of ego left when I work out around other people, and it's hard. So yeah, that's been a huge shift of success in fitness to me not being like times and numbers, but being more a feeling and how it complements the rest of my life, my business, my relationships, everything.
Yeah. So I get questions from people who are new to CrossFit. They're about to go to their first class and they ask me for advice. And I tell them a few things. I tell them, one, don't worry about what's going on to your left and your right. Don't pay attention to
That's
anybody's
good.
weights. Don't pay attention to how fast anybody else is going. You're doing this for you. You're not doing this to show off for anybody else. And the other thing I tell them is to listen to the coach, to learn as much as they can.
That's good.
Because being a coach, that was one of my pet peeves when someone would come to class and you're explaining the workout, how to do the movement properly to avoid injury, and people are just kind of not paying attention. Um, so I just lost my train of thought.
Blinders on.
Yeah. Brooke can edit this out. So that's part of the reason why CrossFit gets such a bad rap, is because there is so much emphasis put on the intensity. And if you don't do 3 Metcons a
Yes.
day, why are you even going into the gym? And it's great. Like, if you want to be a competitive CrossFit athlete, that is what it takes. But you have to ask yourself, do you want to be a competitive CrossFit athlete because it's cool, or because that is deeply like what you are, like who you want to be as a person? And that is kind of what I got caught up in, is I wanted to be a competitive CrossFit athlete. And so in Saudi Arabia, I was training like 4 hours a day, sleeping 9+ hours, and my life revolved around that. And I liked it. I enjoyed it. But then I sat down and realized that, okay, like, unless you're like number one in the games, nobody really gives a shit like how fit you are, right? And so, just like you, I kind of reevaluated my time, and my views around fitness had changed. It was not about the ego at all anymore. It's just, if you feel good, you look good. Um, there's definitely a time and a place to perform and to compete, for sure. But that should only comprise about 10% of your time. And if you think you're not competing, anytime you're in class and you see someone pick up the bar before you and you go to the bar and pick it up, that is competing. Okay. So
Yeah.
don't think just because you're not in a competition, you're not competing against other people. But yeah, the biggest thing, just focus on yourself, focus on your form, how you feel.
Yeah. It's like it's thinking about the stress that it takes on your body, kind of like how we say not all like every even exercise is a form of stress, right? And so when we're talking to our clients about how's your stress, and they're like, well, I'm not that stressed, and I'm like, but you're not sleeping, you're exercising a lot, you're eating really shitty food, like you're inputting all of these stress. And it's the same with competition, like whether you're actually going to competitions or competing in the open or whatever. When you're taking class, if you're a competitive person, and I'm not saying you shouldn't take class, but like you're probably competing, and that's an extra stress that you're adding into the system, which is fine. But again, like pick and choose when you want to work at that intensity. And if you really can't take class without being like a psycho person, then maybe reassess the format in which you're working out, because you have to look at how it fits in with the rest of your life and your priorities. And for me now, like I'll sign up for a local competition because there are people at my gym who are like, yeah, we want to sign up for this. Like, will you be on our team? And I'm like, sure. But it's actually for the first time ever, I'm able to do it for fun and not take myself so seriously. And not, I used to only be able to have fun if I knew I was going to be the best person in the room. I'd be like, oh, I'll be the best person here so I can just relax and chill. Now I'm like, no, I'm certainly not the best person in the room, but I can still go in and have fun. And I still struggle with like talking shit about like talking myself down, like being like, no, I'm not a good athlete. No, I suck at that. No, I'm whatever. Cause I'm trying to like set the bar low. So it's an ongoing struggle, but yeah, competition it can play a different role in your life. You don't have to get rid of it completely.
100%.
Yeah.
So we used to work out 3-4 hours a day, and now we realize that that is not necessary if you want to be a competitive athlete. 100%. But the majority of my audience, your audience, I'm imagining, are not competitive athletes. So some people still have that view of you have to spend so many hours in the gym to get any benefit from the exercise, which is just not the case. You want to go in a little bit into how to use exercise. You don't even necessarily need to spend a whole hour doing it. People say they don't have time. Um, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about what your goals are. So if and where you're starting from, if I were to be like, I just want to walk every day, I probably wouldn't like see the most aesthetically pleasing results because my body is used to a certain level of activity. But if you're starting from nothing, then sure. But yeah, I think that figuring out, definitely making sure to schedule in your workouts, like that's become really important for me as my business has gotten busier for once in my life. Like my life doesn't revolve around my workouts, but my workouts revolve around my business. But I still schedule it in. I'm like, okay, at this time every morning, I know I'm going to be moving, and unless I have a really stressful day, looking at the other stresses in your life and knowing, okay, I have a really, really busy day that's going to stress me out. I don't need to do a super high intensity workout this morning. I am just going to go for a walk today, and kind of making your workouts fit with whatever other stress and things that you have going on in your life. Um, Lowering the intensity has been really big for me, like not going balls to the wall and everything, which is easier to do when I work out by myself because then I don't have anyone to compete against. But doing a lot more strength training actually, and like even going back to a lot of bodybuilding type stuff that's like very single leg, single arm, not always with a heavy barbell, uh, has has been big for me because I get I still want to look good at the end of the day. So I get the aesthetic results that I want, and I'm getting stronger at the same time. And then a couple times a week, I can throw a barbell around and do some burpees, and I'm good to go.
And how does this might be difficult to answer because we've been active for, I don't know, I've been active for my whole life, and I'm imagining it's pretty similar for you. But how does working out improve your productivity? Because
Mm.
a lot of people, busy entrepreneurs especially, kind of make the excuse like I don't have time, like I only have to time to work on my business. When in reality, if you would take that break um, and just focus on yourself, um, that could actually dramatically improve your productivity. So you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of twofold in my view. It's energy wise, like if you're sitting at your desk all day, you need to get up and move. Like it's not good for your body. It's not good for your sleep cycle staring at a screen all day. Not that when you work out, you're necessarily like out in the sunlight, but you're still not looking at a screen, hopefully. Unless you're on a Peloton bike, then maybe like put some blue blockers on or something.
Yeah.
So like from that, like the physical side, awesome. But also from just if you're feeling, I find that when I'm feeling really stuck, that like if I'm trying to create content or I need to have some like hard conversations with people and I'm just feeling like angry and blocked, or that getting up and doing something actually will help you get unstuck and taking your mind off of the business. And like if you've ever noticed when you're in the shower or when you go for a walk or maybe in the middle of a workout, you get these like genius ideas and you're like, oh my God, I wish I had a piece of paper. I'm thinking about literally getting a whiteboard for my shower because I have so many ideas in the shower.
Could you do that?
But
Are there like waterproof pens you could write with?
I think someone I follow, maybe it was like Angie Lee or someone I think had a shower idea board or something, but it could have just been like right outside maybe. I'm not sure, but if you got it wet, it would ruin the marker.
Or with the condensation just right on the door or
Yeah, although we have a
whatever?
curtain, so that wouldn't really work.
Oh,
But
okay.
um, but yeah, or just like grab your phone and make a voice note and don't get it wet.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of your greatest ideas can be sparked by movement, by doing something that's completely unrelated to work. And I think that exercise, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be exercise. Now I'm kind of going off topic, um, but I
Movement.
think exercise movement is that's how it can fit into your business outside of physically making you a healthier person, because if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're going to crash and burn, and then your business is going to crash and burn with you.
And that's why Pomodoro breaks are so effective, right? That's one of my favorite productivity kind of hacks is like, instead of just sitting down and working for 3 hours straight, if you actually get up and move for 5 minutes, it's going to get the blood flowing. It's going to get the creative juices flowing again. And do you have any recommendations for where to use or how to use or implement Pomodoro breaks?
Yeah, I've actually gotten off of it lately. Not on like, you just reminded me that I need to start using it. I think that, so does your, I don't know if anybody listening knows what Pomodoro is, but yeah, I typically do 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of a break.
Yeah, typical
20.
is 25/5, and
Yeah.
I've referenced it, I think, on my podcast or my interview with Dr. Kimberly. So if they've listened to that, they've heard of it. But
If you haven't listened, the Pomodoro method is like interval training for your brain or for your work. So set a timer. You can Google Pomodoro timer. 25 minutes of work where literally, like, depending on what you're doing, you're in airplane mode. All, like, on my computer, all my notifications are turned off. I close out of my email, I close out of Facebook, like anything that can pop up. We're all like, oh, I have ADD, I can't focus. I'm like, no, you literally just have 5,000 things open on your screen. Of course you can't focus.
Yep.
Stop looking at your phone every time you get a notification. So 100% focus for those 25 minutes. And then when the timer goes off at 5 minutes, whether you are in the middle of something or not, stop what you're doing, get up, walk around, go to the bathroom, get water. I try not to, like, look at my phone, because then 30 minutes later, I'm like sucked into the Instagram vortex. And then you can do as many rounds of those. I like to do sometimes 2 in a row. Sometimes I'll do 4 in a row before I take like a longer break. And I save the responding to messages. I save, anything that I know is going to take me longer than 5 minutes. I save it for that long break. Is that similar to how you use it?
Yeah, it's exactly the same. And you can just use the timer on your phone, but if you do that, make sure it's on airplane mode so you don't get any of the notifications, or there's websites that you can use as well. Well, we've been going for about an hour now. So you want to, well, first, do you have anything you want to close with? Any last words?
My last words, final words.
Before we tell people where they can find you?
No, I mean, I guess if last words are like advice, if you really want something, like, don't let anything stand in your way. Like, just don't. Be completely honest with yourself. And maybe you have a friend that's really honest with you and calls you out on your bullshit excuses. And if you need to call them in to have a chat with you, but, like, figure out why you're stopping yourself from doing the thing you want to do, from being happy. And that's going to be hard work, and it's going to take, it's not something you can do overnight. You're going to have to do all the things that you don't want to do, probably journal, meditate, talk about things, hire a therapist if you need to. But because if you don't work past that, then you're going to keep finding yourself in the same place over and over and over again. And if I could finish with anything, it's what you said earlier. What is the cost of not doing the thing? I love that so much. I'm going to go talk about it on my story right after this.
Boom. Wise words from Julia Avery. All right. You want to tell the people where they can find you and a little bit more about the programs you offer?
Sure. So easiest way to find me is Instagram. I'm always there, more than I should be.
Yep.
So at Julia Avery, there's a shared A in there, so it's a little bit confusing. JuliAvery. If you DM me, I will answer you pretty quickly. So feel free to send me a DM. Tell me what you want to see more of. I don't know when this podcast is going to come out, but I'll probably be in the middle of Step Up, I'm guessing.
Yes. It starts Monday, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the day the podcast will be out.
Okay. Well, if you're listening to this and you want to join, so Step Up is my program that I'm currently running. It's a 12-week group coaching program that helps coaches, whether you're a fitness professional, a nutrition coach, I actually have someone who coaches people on public speaking in there, which is really cool. I'm like, I need to take her course, but I help them build their online businesses. So whether that's transferring what they're already doing into the online space or creating something completely new from scratch, that's what we focus on in the program. We have weekly coaching calls. We have an awesome Facebook group where people are like collaborating. It's like our home base. And then obviously there's curriculum, so you learn how to do all the things. I'm currently enrolling, and we start Monday, the 18th of May. Potentially some last minute spots if you're listening and you really want to get in there.
I will air this episode like 2 days early. We'll do it on Saturday to get it to the people early.
Awesome. Look at you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So if you're
course.
listening, then I'm here. All you have to do is hit me up on Instagram and I can tell you all about it.
Boom. There you have it,
Boom.
guys. Julia, thank you so much for hopping on, giving your
Yeah.
wise words to the people. They need to hear it. So yeah, thank you again.
Thanks so much for having me. This was so fun.